Hello YouTube, and welcome to my first English video that is actually something else than an introduction. This time we're actually going to dive right into the trans stuff. It is probably the hardest question that a person can possibly be faced with in their life. Who am I? What is my identity? Am I male? Am I female? Am I trans? When you first start questioning your identity, it can be very confusing and very frustrating as well. You start thinking and rotating thoughts over and over again in your brain, and in the end you feel like you don't know anything anymore. At least that was the case for me and a lot of people that I've spoken to. It is one of those questions that I'm asked all the time by people who think that they may be trans. How can I know for sure? Can you tell me? Please tell me. Am I trans? Am I trans? And I know that there are a lot of videos on YouTube addressing those issues. When I was questioning myself, I watched all of those videos and I was very frustrated because every single person in the videos said, well, I can't tell you. You know, they had this great title, How to Tell If You're Trans, and then they just tell you, well, I can't tell you if you're trans, only you can know that. And now I'm sitting here like every other YouTuber that I hated for it, and I have to tell you, I can't tell you. And why can't I tell you? Because I don't know you. I can't look inside of your head. You're the only one who can figure out your identity. I cannot take a list and tick off yes, 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 and that's a sign, and that's a sign, and okay, so you're trans now. I can't do it because that would be wrong, and that would be forcing someone into something that they probably aren't ready for. Because there comes a time when you will get to a point where you figure out who you are, and once you get to that point yourself, you will be able to accept it. If I tell you now that you're trans, you might be happy for a moment because you think that now, well, you have the solution, you are trans, and then you won't know what to do with it because you won't be able to accept it and still be unsure. Even if I told you you're trans, you would still be unsure until you'd figured it out for yourself. And you're going to, believe me. Transgender is an umbrella term for anyone who does not identify 100% with the gender they were assigned at birth. So if I have female on this side and male on this side, and let's say you were born in a female body and you were assigned female at birth, transgender does not automatically mean that you are right on the other end of the spectrum and you're 100% male. No, it starts right here. Once there is even a small part of you that cannot completely identify with the gender you were assigned at birth, you are technically somewhere in this spectrum. Alright? You can be here, you can be here, you can be here, you can be right at the other end of the spectrum and feel 100% male. A lot of people are somewhere in between and identify as genderqueer or non-binary or agender or bigender or trigender or demigender and whatever else is in between. So the thing is, if you're here watching this, not because you just stumbled upon it by chance on YouTube, but because you're actually asking yourself, is there a chance that I might be trans? Chances are good that you are at least somewhere in the spectrum, because cis people who identify with their gender assigned at birth and who are completely happy with their gender are very unlikely to even ever question it. So if you question it, that's probably because you feel that even a small part of you is not 100% comfortable with the way things are right now. So if you have this feeling that something may be up with your gender, chances are that you are actually under this trans umbrella already. Now, there is a chance that some of you will be happy with just that, just the information that they are somewhere in the spectrum. And once they know that they're not completely female, or male for that matter, they identify as just genderqueer, you know, and they're somewhere in between and they dress however they want to dress and they do whatever they want to do and are just happy with themselves. But then there are those people who are like, well, okay, so I'm on the spectrum, but that's just not enough information for me. For me personally, I knew I was in the trans spectrum for like years. I never did anything about it, and I tried to live with the fact that I was not female, but I didn't know what else I was, so I just kept on living until I got to a point where I became so uncomfortable with my body that I had to dig up those questions again and ask them again and really try to figure out who I was. It wasn't enough to know what I was not. I needed some label for myself, which may be right or wrong, you know. Is it that great to label everyone? But for me, it was important that I had a name for what I was feeling. And in my experience, a lot of people who ask me, you know, am I really trans, are not actually asking, am I on the trans spectrum? But the real question is, am I desperate enough to transition, to change my name, to go on hormones, to do surgeries? They ask, am I trans? But by am I trans, they don't mean am I on the spectrum, but they mean am I FTM? And am I going to change things? And am I going to come out to people? Am I desperate enough for this? I think that's the real question for a lot of people. It was the real question for me. And that question is a lot harder to answer than the spectrum one. Because those are choices that you have to really think about for a long time. Those are choices that once you made them, you cannot go back in many cases. Once you've come out to people and told them your new name, of course you can tell them, you know, I've changed my mind, I want to live as a female again, and please use my old name. You can do that. It's probably going to work, but people are going to think you're kind of strange, probably. And you yourself are going to be very uncomfortable telling people to go back to your old name because, you know, how's it going to look? And it's even worse with hormones, you know. If you've taken hormones for a couple months and your voice has gone down, it won't go back up, even if you stop taking tea. Same with surgeries. I mean, once stuff is gone, you can't really glue it back on, you know. Those are the really scary questions. And believe me, I do know how it feels. I really remember how it feels to be right at the beginning of this probably crazy journey and being scared as hell. Because the real question was not, am I trans? The real question was, am I desperate enough to make these choices? And that's very, very scary. Many of you out there are desperate for a label, are desperate to be able to say, well, I am trans and I know for a fact, and that gives me the right to come out and to have these things happen. But maybe when you're still in that early stage of discovering yourself, you don't need to really say it out loud yet. Maybe it's easier to just say to yourself, well, I'm questioning my gender identity at the moment, and I'm going to try out things in order to figure stuff out. So experiment. Put on some male clothing. Maybe put on some female clothing. Look at yourself in the mirror and really try to feel inside yourself how that makes you feel. What is comfortable for you? What is not so comfortable for you? And try to get rid of the uncomfortable stuff. Maybe change your hairstyle. Maybe try to change your name and experiment with different pronouns, you know? But be careful. If you have long hair, for example, and you feel that you may be a trans guy, don't just cut your hair off without really thinking about it. Not every guy has short hair. And I just want you to know that you don't have to fit that certain stereotype of, you know, short hair and completely male clothing and stuff like that if you don't feel comfortable in that or 100% sure about it. Just experiment, but only do the stuff that feels good for you. You don't need to fit a stereotype in order to be trans. You have to give yourself some time and reflect and think and try out stuff, and eventually, I promise you, you will figure things out. And once you're really sure about it, you're going to be able to make those choices and not regret them. Don't let yourself be pushed into anything by yourself or other people or whoever that you are not ready for, because you're the one who's going to be facing the consequences. Do what makes you comfortable at a speed that is comfortable for you. If you need to go fast, but if you need time, take your time. It also helps to talk to other people who are going through similar stuff. There are support groups, there is stuff on the internet, there are message boards and stuff like that, Facebook groups. Try to talk to other trans people and ask them how they feel about certain things and how they went about their journey. For me, that was very helpful. If you're already ready for it, maybe try to look for a good gender therapist. It should be someone that clicks with you, kind of. Not everyone is comfortable with everyone, and you need to find a therapist that you can really open up to and talk to about. But once you've found a person that you can really trust and that you can talk to about stuff, gender therapy is definitely going to help you a great deal. And it's a necessity anyway if you want to do anything medically in most countries, so why not start now, you know? So yeah, that's basically it. If you question your gender identity and if you don't feel comfortable with your gender assigned at birth, you are probably somewhere in the spectrum, and it just takes some time and some experimenting to figure out where you are. I promise you, you will figure it out eventually. Don't give up, even if it's hard, even if you're going through a really terrible time, but don't give up. It's going to be worth it, I promise you. And if you have any questions, if there's anything I didn't cover in this video, or if you just want to talk to someone, email me at tomhenrikftm@gmail.com. I will make sure to answer all your messages, so don't hesitate to contact me. And I'm also going to keep uploading stuff. My next video is probably going to be about coming out, how I came out to my family and my friends, and some ideas on different ways to come out to people. So if you're planning to come out to people and you're still looking for advice, be sure to check out my next video. And until then, I wish you all the best, and I'll see you soon. Bye.